My boyfriend straight up called me ugly in front of his buddies, then dumped me right there at the restaurant, and to top it all off, he left me with the check. As he walked out, he shouted something like, "A girl like you should feel lucky I even dated her." I didn't react. Just smiled and stayed calm. Fast forward to this morning, my phone's blowing up with 11 missed calls. Wild, right? Honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around what happened last weekend. I keep replaying the whole scene in my mind like maybe I imagined it. But no, it was all painfully real. Let's just say the charges on my already maxed out credit card and the chocolate ice cream stains all over my couch are proof enough. I wasn't just casually dating Logan, we've been together for 3 whole years. 3 actual years. This wasn't some fling. We had a rhythm, a life. We'd binge Netflix every Sunday, endure awkward family dinners with both sides, and even tried that ridiculous couples yoga class he swore would bring us closer. Spoiler, we were both awful at it. No, our relationship wasn't perfect, but whose is? I genuinely believed we were solid. We had even talked about moving in together this summer. Sure, Logan had his quirks. He'd leave socks everywhere, constantly text during movies, and toss in helpful comments about how I looked. Things like, "That shirt kind of makes your arms look bigger," or "Ever thought about switching up your hairstyle?" I used to chalk it up to him being brutally honest. Ugh. If only I could go back and shake my past self for letting that slide. Anyway, last Thursday he texts me, asking if I want to join him for dinner with a couple of his work friends. I was surprised he never brought me around his coworkers before. Always said it wasn't professional. So yeah, I was actually looking forward to it. I went out, bought a new outfit, RIP to my budget, and spent way too long getting ready. Full glam, YouTube tutorials, my good straightener, the whole deal. I showed up at this ultra-upscale restaurant downtown, the kind with microscopic portions and no prices on the menu. That should have been red flag number 1. Logan was already there with 2 coworkers, Ethan and Marco. The moment I walked up, something felt off. He barely looked at me. Just half stood and muttered, "You're late." I was literally 5 minutes behind because parking downtown is impossible. I sat down, and he looked at my outfit and said loudly, "Oh, that's what you went with?" His friends exchanged glances, and I felt my cheeks burn. For the record, I was wearing a navy blue dress I felt really good in. Nothing wild. Definitely not inappropriate. I tried to laugh it off. Was there a dress code I didn't know about? But he just shrugged and said they'd already ordered starters. Cool. The next hour was just him rambling about work stuff I didn't understand while his friends nodded along. Every time I tried to chime in, he'd either talk over me or explain why I was off base. I mentioned a funny story about a customer at my store, and Logan cut me off with, "She doesn't really get how real business works," waving me off like retail doesn't count. I've been managing that store for 4 years. I sat there getting more uncomfortable by the minute, wondering if he'd always been this much of a jerk or if he was just showing off for his friends. Either way, it was gross. Then Ethan asked how we met, and I started telling the story, how my best friend Jenna introduced us because she used to work with Logan. Right in the middle of my sentence, Logan interrupts and goes, "Yeah, Jenna felt sorry for her. I was doing a good deed." Then he laughed. You guys, I felt like I'd been slapped. And it wasn't even true. Jenna had warned me about his massive ego before setting us up but said he had a good heart underneath. Spoiler, she was wrong. I excused myself to the bathroom to avoid crying at the table. I texted Jenna from the stall like, "WTF is going on?" And then while I was trying to pull myself together, I get a notification. Logan just tagged himself at the restaurant on Instagram, with the caption, "Boys Night Out." Like I didn't even exist. Jenna immediately called me, but I sent it to voicemail. I wasn't about to sob on the phone with his coworkers just outside. I washed my face, fixed my makeup, and gave myself this sad little pep talk in the mirror. Just make it through dinner with your dignity intact. When I got back, they were all laughing about something, but everything went dead silent the moment I sat down. Great. Then the food came, and Logan started cracking jokes about what I ordered. I had picked pasta, one of the cheaper things on the menu, because I was already worried about money, and he goes, "Carb loading for a marathon, and bold pick for your body type." Every comment felt like a paper cut. Small, sharp, and adding up. By then, I wasn't even eating, just moving food around and counting down the seconds until I could leave. Then Marco brought up a presentation, and Logan started bragging about how he crushed it and how his boss loved it. He made it sound like he was running the whole show. Except, just last week, he was panicking about that same presentation, saying his part was barely 5 minutes and he had no clue what to say. It was like he'd invented a version of himself just for that night, a fantasy where he was the star. Then the check came. The waiter placed it on the table. Logan picked it up, glanced at it, and slid it over to me. At first, I honestly thought he was just showing me the total, like maybe he was letting me know how much the bill came to. But then he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I'll never forget this." Followed by, "I don't think this is working anymore." I just stared at him, waiting for the punchline. But no. He was serious. Dead serious. Right there in the middle of that ridiculously fancy restaurant, with his coworkers sitting there, he tells me, after 3 full years together, that he's no longer attracted to me and wants to break up. In public. In front of people. Who even does that? I was completely blindsided. Like, is this a prank? Are you really ending our relationship like this? Then he stands up, grabs his jacket, and says, and I swear I'll never forget these words. Even thinking about this makes me feel sick. A girl like you should be thankful I even dated you. You're not exactly a prize. And then he just walked away. With his friends. All 3 of them strolled out of the restaurant, laughing like they hadn't just ditched me with the $312 bill for overpriced Wagyu sliders and artisanal cocktails I didn't even drink. I sat there in shock until the waiter came over with the most awkward, pity-filled smile I've ever seen. Somehow, that look made it all feel even worse. I pulled out my credit card, the same one with only $15 left after the holidays, and paid the full bill. Then I somehow managed to walk to my car without completely falling apart right there on the sidewalk. But once I got into the car, I broke. Full-on heaving sobs. I called Jenna, but I was crying so hard she couldn't even understand what I was saying at first. She didn't hesitate. Within an hour, she showed up at my apartment with a pint of Ben & Jerry's and a bottle of wine. Seriously, MVP behavior. Between spoonfuls of cookie dough ice cream and me ugly crying on the couch, I told her everything. Every humiliating detail. And Jenna? She was livid. Like, pacing the living room, muttering under her breath, ready to key his car, kind of furious. I actually had to talk her down from driving to Logan's place and unleashing some kind of cinematic revenge. That's when things started to get interesting. She started asking questions. Not about the breakup, but about what Logan had said lately about work, his job title, that big project, all the impressive stuff he liked to brag about. Then she hit me with this. Chloe, I don't even know how to say this, but Logan isn't who he pretends to be at work. Turns out, Logan wasn't some rising marketing star. He wasn't up for a promotion. He wasn't even on the team that gave presentations. He was an assistant. Like, the guy who orders lunch and books meeting rooms. Every business trip he ever mentioned? Completely fake. That major presentation he kept talking about? He was just the one formatting the PowerPoint. Even his job title on LinkedIn? Totally made up. I sat there feeling like the biggest fool on the planet. This man had been lying to me for 3 entire years and I didn't see it. What else had he lied about? My brain started spiraling. So after Jenna left, I turned full detective. I scrolled through our old texts, our photos, everything. And let me tell you, I started spotting all these red flags I had completely ignored. Strange comments about money that never added up. Nights when he claimed to be working late, but his shared location showed him across town. Stuff I never questioned until now. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept replaying that dinner, how small he made me feel, how thoroughly humiliated I was. And then around 2:30 a.m., I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Hey, it's Dylan from Logan's office. Jenna gave me your number. There's stuff you need to know. That's when things really started to unravel. First off, thank you so much to everyone who commented on my last post. I didn't expect that kind of support, and honestly, I cried reading through the messages. But in the best way. A lot of you asked for an update, so here's what happened next in this absolute circus of a situation. After Dylan, who actually works with Logan, filled me in on just how fake Logan's work persona was, I spent the next few days in full post-breakup haze. You know what I mean, random crying fits, zero motivation, way too much takeout. My apartment looked like a disaster zone. Dishes piled up, laundry exploded everywhere, and I think I had at least 6 empty DoorDash bags scattered around. Cooking anything felt like climbing Everest. The worst part? I'd think of something funny or random, and my first instinct would be to text Logan, only to remember, oh right. He dumped you. In public. Like a sociopath. Every time that realization hit me, it felt like being dumped all over again. I had been avoiding social media because I knew Logan would post something cringe. And sure enough, when I finally gave in and checked Instagram that Wednesday morning, there he was. Gym mirror selfie. Caption: Level up. Know your worth. The audacity. I nearly threw my phone at the wall. That night, Jenna came over again, this time with Thai food, and found me curled up in a blanket like a human burrito of despair. She's been my anchor through all of this. She makes sure I eat, lets me vent on repeat, and never once hit me with an "I told you so," even though she had her doubts about Logan from the start. While we were eating, she pulled up her texts with Dylan. Apparently, the two of them had been talking a lot, and wow. He had tea. According to Dylan, Logan had been telling everyone in the office that he dumped me because I was clingy and kept pressuring him about marriage. Excuse me? I wasn't the one who made an entire Pinterest board called Future Home Ideas. That was Logan. And yes, he claimed it was for work research. Please. Then Dylan dropped a bombshell. Not only was Logan faking his job title, he was actually on probation at work. Why? For stealing credit on projects he didn't even contribute to. If he didn't turn things around soon, he was probably getting fired. Those late nights he claimed were crunch time at the office? Yeah, turns out he was just scrambling to cover up his own screw-ups before anyone noticed. And those business trips? Totally fake. I was still trying to wrap my head around all of it when my phone buzzed. It was Tina, Logan's mom. I almost let it go to voicemail. Just seeing her name made my stomach twist. But she had always been kind, the kind of mom who remembers your birthday, checks in just because, and genuinely cares. So I answered. She sounded concerned, asking if Logan and I were okay. Apparently, he told his family we'd had a little disagreement, but everything was fine. A disagreement? Really? The man humiliated me in public, dumped me in front of his coworkers, and left me with a $300 plus dinner bill. Still, I didn't want to drag her into our mess. I kept it vague. We're taking a little space right now. Then she brought up his birthday dinner this Saturday. Everyone was excited to see me. I nearly choked on my lo mein. Logan had told them we were still together. And apparently I was not only expected to be there, but we were supposed to be sharing some kind of big news with the family. I ended the call and just stared into space. Jenna looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Then she asked, "Okay, so is he completely delusional, or just a chronic liar?" Honestly, I didn't know. But that's when the plan started to form. I wasn't going to ghost his family. They'd always been kind and they deserved the truth. I wasn't out for revenge either. I just wanted to quietly show up and let reality speak for itself. The next day, I met Dylan for coffee. Yeah, it was a little weird since we'd only met through Logan, but he turned out to be super chill. And honest. He confirmed everything. And then some. That team Logan said he led? It was him and 2 interns. The big presentation he supposedly crushed last month? Logan ran the slideshow while his boss did the talking. Dylan looked genuinely sorry for me. He said he'd always found Logan's stories about me a little off. Apparently, Logan had been going around the office claiming I was clingy and obsessed with getting married. Which was hilarious, considering he was the one who made a Pinterest board titled Future Home Ideas. And yes, he tried to pass it off as work research. Please. Then Dylan dropped the real bomb. Logan wasn't just exaggerating, he was on probation at work. He'd been caught taking credit for projects that weren't his, and if things didn't improve, he was probably getting fired. Mid-convo, Dylan got a text from his boss asking him to come in Saturday night for an urgent project. He was bummed he had plans, but it gave me an idea. What if Dylan had to swing by Logan's birthday dinner to drop something off from work? Perfect timing. While we worked out the details, my phone buzzed. Logan. His first text since the restaurant disaster. We need to talk about what happened. I might have overreacted. Might have? I showed Dylan and he nearly spit out his coffee. Like, no dude. Overreacting is getting annoyed because someone forgot to text back. What you did. That was psychological warfare. I left him on read. Let him stew. The next few days were a whirlwind. I wasn't walking into that dinner unprepared. I combed through old texts and photos, piecing together a timeline of all the lies. Conferences that didn't exist. Co-workers Dylan confirmed were fake. Those staged work event pics? Lifted straight from the company's website. Friday night, Jenna came over to help me strategize. We tore through my closet looking for the right outfit. Part of me wanted to walk in looking absolutely stunning just to mess with him. But we decided it was better to keep it classy, confident, not dramatic. We landed on a simple black dress, one Logan once called average. Funny thing is, I always got compliments in it. I barely slept that night. My mind wouldn't stop racing. What if it backfired? What if his family believed him? What if I froze and couldn't go through with it? By Saturday morning, my nerves were wrecked. I'd bitten my nails down to stubs and mentally rehearsed 14 different outcomes. Then around noon, Logan texted again. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear something nice. My parents are excited." I didn't reply. Let him believe whatever he wanted. The rest of the afternoon was a blur of prep. Jenna did my hair and gave me the best pep talk of all time. Just be yourself. The truth is on your side. At 6:45, I got in my car. I had to pull over once. My hands were shaking too badly to grip the wheel. I sat there doing breathing exercises from that meditation app one downloaded and never used. Doubt crept in. Was I being dramatic? Should I just block him and move on? But then I pictured him at the dinner table, spinning some completely false version of our relationship. Maybe even playing the victim. And I knew I had to show up. I pulled into the driveway just before 7. Late enough to make him sweat. There were already several cars out front. Looked like the whole family was there. I checked my lipstick in the mirror, took one final breath, and walked up to the door. Logan's dad greeted me at the door with a big smile and one of his warm hugs like nothing had changed. He ushered me inside, and instantly I was hit with the smell of Tina's famous pot roast. For a moment, I felt a sharp pang in my chest. I really did care about his family. And deep down, I knew this would probably be the last time I ever saw them. I stepped into the living room and spotted Logan, drink in hand, laughing at something one of his cousins said. The second he saw me, he froze. The look on his face? Absolutely priceless. He clearly hadn't expected me to actually show up, despite telling his family I would. For a split second, I saw panic flash in his eyes before he forced on a fake smile. He walked over, gave me the most awkward hug imaginable, and whispered, "You actually came. We need to talk alone." I smiled right back and said, loud enough for everyone in the room to hear, "Of course I came. Especially after you told your family we had exciting news to share tonight." His face went ghost pale. Tina lit up, clapping her hands. "Is this what I think it is?" Kayla, his sister, gave me a look like she already smelled drama brewing. His dad cracked a joke about finally getting grandkids. Logan tried to grab my elbow and steer me toward the hallway, but Tina called out that dinner was ready and told everyone to take their seats. As we all filed into the dining room, Logan looked like he was about to crawl out of his own skin. Just as I sat down, my phone buzzed. Text from Dylan, on my way. 10 minutes out. Logan leaned in and hissed, "Why are you even here?" "I thought after the restaurant." I smiled sweetly and replied aloud enough for the table. "Oh, I wouldn't miss the chance to tell your family all about what happened at that dinner, Logan. I'm sure they'd love to hear it." The sheer panic on his face as Tina came in with plates of food. "Worth every second. Game on. Second update. Okay, I'm finally ready to spill what went down at Logan's birthday dinner. Sorry for the delay. I needed a minute to recover from the emotional whiplash. Also, my neighbor somehow got my Wi-Fi password and apparently tried to download the entire internet, so my connection was trash all week. Anyway, back to the drama. When we left off, I was sitting at the table, smiling politely while Logan quietly unraveled across from me. The room was full, his parents, Tina and Frank, his sister Kayla, his grandma, who I absolutely adore, and a few cousins whose names I always confuse. The table was beautifully set. Tina's famous pot roast, mashed potatoes that were basically velvet, and one of those fancy salads nobody eats but everyone compliments out of obligation. The first 20 minutes were tense. Logan kept trying to control the conversation, shooting me nervous glances every time I opened my mouth. Meanwhile, I passed the breadbasket and enjoyed the little twitch in his left eye every time I cleared my throat. Petty? Maybe? Satisfying? 1000%. Thankfully, Tina was her usual warm and chatty self, asking about my job, my family, all the usual small talk. And then she said something that nearly made me spit out my water. She said how proud they all were of Logan's big promotion. I glanced at him across the table just in time to see him turn the exact shade of the beets on his plate. He jumped in quickly, launching into some vague brag about how his team was exceeding all targets, and how his boss was grooming him for senior management. I just smiled and nodded as he kept digging his own grave. Then Frank, who's usually the quiet one, asked about the Johnson account, which Logan had apparently hyped up as some major work win. Logan started rambling about leveraging core assets and strategic shifts, which sounded like he'd swallowed a LinkedIn post and was trying to regurgitate it. Kayla, ever the skeptic, shot me a look from across the table like, "Is this dude for real?" And then Tina brought up the big news. She asked if it had to do with us taking the next step. Logan nearly dropped his fork. Then his grandma, who has no filter and is honestly my favorite person at that table, blurted out, "So are you two moving in together or what?" Logan said you've been apartment hunting, which was news to me. The closest we ever came to that conversation was me joking once about combining our Netflix accounts to save money. Logan tried, yet again, to redirect the conversation by bragging that his boss had just given him a company credit card. I couldn't help myself. I leaned in and asked sweetly, "Oh, what kind of expenses are you allowed to approve?" He mumbled something vague about client dinners and team events. And that's when I casually added, "Oh, speaking of dinners, Logan took me to this amazing place last week. What was it called again, babe? The one where we met Ethan and Marco." Boom. The color drained from his face faster than my phone battery after 30 minutes on TikTok. No joke, my phone can barely handle more than 20 minutes of scrolling before it dies. Just me? Anyway, before Logan could say anything, the doorbell rang. Right on cue. Tina went to answer it, and I heard her cheerful voice say, "Oh, Dylan. What a nice surprise. You should have seen Logan. He looked like someone had yanked the floor out from under him." Dylan walked in, dressed sharp in a button-up and holding a folder. He apologized for the interruption, saying he needed Logan's signature on a few documents for Monday. All business. Tina, ever the perfect hostess, smiled and told him to stay for cake afterward. Logan, visibly panicking, tried to hustle Dylan back toward the door, but Frank wasn't having it. "Nonsense," he said. "You can handle work right here, we're all family." So Dylan took the empty seat next to me, the one I may or may not have left open on purpose. Logan gripped his fork like it was about to snap in his hand. Then Frank turned to Dylan and asked about the big presentation, the one Logan supposedly led. Dylan paused for a second, caught off guard. He glanced at me, then back at Logan. You could see the decision being made in real time. He answered carefully, the presentation had gone well, but their boss had given it. Logan and the rest of the team had helped put it together. Frank frowned. That's not how Logan described it. That's when I jumped in because honestly, I was in a slightly unhinged mood. I asked Dylan about Logan's promotion. Just casually, like I was making small talk. Dylan looked visibly uncomfortable. You could see the internal struggle, trying to protect a coworker without outright lying to an entire family. He fiddled with his napkin and muttered something about organizational changes. Logan forced a laugh and tried to steer the conversation toward sports or something safer, but Kayla wasn't letting it slide. Sharp-eyed, straight-faced, she turned to Dylan and asked directly, "So what's Logan's actual job title?" "Silence. The heavy, dense kind that hangs in the air when something's gone terribly wrong. The kind of silence you get in a public bathroom after someone drops something loud and embarrassing." Dylan looked at Logan, who was now silently pleading with his eyes. Then he looked at me. I gave him the smallest nod. Dylan cleared his throat and said it. "Logan is an administrative assistant in the marketing department." You could have heard a pin drop. Frank slowly set down his fork. Logan's grandma let out a shocked little grunt. Kayla muttered under her breath, "I'm pretty sure it was, I knew it." Logan instantly launched into damage control. He claimed Dylan had it wrong, that his role was multifaceted and hard to explain. But it was too late. The truth was out and the questions started flying. "When were you promoted?" "He wasn't." "Why did you say you led a team?" "He doesn't." "What about the office you said you had?" "Also imaginary." With every answer, another brick in his fake persona fell apart. And the more he glared at me, as if I were the one ruining him, the more determined I became to let the whole truth come out. Tina, trying to save the night, suggested we all calm down and have some cake. She disappeared into the kitchen. Kayla turned to me and asked about the restaurant I'd mentioned earlier. I took a deep breath. This was it. My moment. I told them everything. How Logan invited me to dinner with his coworkers, how he insulted me through the whole meal, dumped me in front of everyone, and left me to pay a $312 bill I could barely cover. Logan tried to interrupt, talking over me, but Frank shut it down with just one brutal look. I'd never seen Frank like that before. He didn't look angry, just tired. Disappointed in a way that cuts deeper than yelling ever could. Logan claimed I was twisting the truth, playing the victim, embarrassing him. and that I needed to learn financial independence. His grandma actually snorted at that one. Then Dylan, who'd mostly stayed quiet, finally spoke up. He backed up my story completely, said he overheard Logan bragging about how he put me in my place. Then he pulled out his phone and showed them actual texts from Marco. Receipts, people. Literal proof. They'd been joking about the whole thing like it was some kind of alpha male power move. Just as Logan started spinning it again, trying to paint himself as the misunderstood victim, Tina came back and carrying the birthday cake, smiling. She stopped in the doorway, saw all the faces around the table, and asked, "What did I miss?" No one said a word. Then Frank, very quietly, said, "We need to have a serious conversation as a family. About honesty." And that's when Logan completely lost it. I mean, full meltdown mode. He accused me of turning everyone against him. He called Dylan a traitor. He said the whole family was just jealous of his success. Success in what, though? That part was never clear. He knocked over his water glass, pointed at me, and shouted that a girl like me should be grateful he ever dated her. Tina gasped. His grandma muttered something that sounded like a 1920s curse. Kayla just shook her head, completely unsurprised. And me? I stayed calm, looked him dead in the eye and said, "The only thing I'm grateful for is finally seeing the real you." He stormed out, slamming the front door so hard one of Tina's decorative plates fell off the wall and shattered. The aftermath? Honestly, kind of peaceful. Tina kept apologizing over and over. Frank just sat there, quiet and heartbroken. Kayla jumped in to mop up the spilled water and Dylan, bless him, immediately apologized for the chaos. He said he just couldn't sit there and watch Logan lie to everyone's face anymore. And then, something unexpected happened. Instead of awkwardly asking me to leave, Logan's entire family encouraged me to stay for cake. Yep. There I was, the ex-girlfriend, the co-worker, and his family, sitting around the table eating birthday cake without the birthday boy. In any other universe it would have been painfully awkward. But somehow, it wasn't. It actually felt okay. After dessert, I joined Tina in the kitchen to help clean up. She kept apologizing over and over. Not just for what Logan had done to me, but for all the lies. She looked like a mother struggling to come to terms with the fact that her son had become someone she didn't recognize. And honestly, I felt bad for her. No parent wants to face the possibility that their child might just suck. She gently asked if there had been any red flags. I admitted there were signs I ignored because I wanted to believe he was better than he really was. As I was getting ready to leave, Frank pulled me aside. He thanked me for being honest and apologized for everything Logan had put me through. The look in his eyes was heavy, like he was silently carrying the weight of it all, wondering where they went wrong. I told him as kindly as I could that it wasn't on them. Logan made his own choices. Outside, Dylan offered to walk me to my car. I think he could tell I needed a minute to breathe. As we walked down the driveway, he started sharing more about Logan, how he'd been lying at work, taking credit for projects that weren't his, even faking emails from clients to look more important. Apparently, he was already on thin ice with HR and one step from being fired. And suddenly everything made sense. The fake success, the constant bragging, the need to feel admired. It was all just cover. Desperate armor to hide how badly he was spiraling. I won't lie, for a second, I actually pitied him. A very small second. I thanked Dylan for having my back, then drove home feeling completely wrung out, but strangely at peace. Like that moment when you finally get to unhook a tight bra after a 14-hour day. Sorry for the TMI, but if you know, you know. When I got home, I noticed 12 missed calls from Jenna, obviously dying for the full update. I was just about to call her when my phone buzzed again. A text. From Logan. "You ruined everything. This isn't over." I didn't reply. Just blocked the number, made myself a cup of tea, and curled up on the couch. You'd think I'd be freaked out. Or upset. Or angry. But honestly, I just felt tired. And maybe a little proud of myself for finally standing up for me. I really thought that was it. That it was over. But then the next morning I woke up to 13 missed calls. From Tina. From Kayla. From Dylan. From several numbers I didn't even recognize. Something had happened overnight. The voicemails were frantic. Something had gone seriously wrong. And from the tone in their voices, Logan had completely lost control. "All right, I'm finally ready to tell you what those 13 missed calls were about. Thanks for hanging in there while I tried to wrap my head around it all. And shout out to my laptop for choosing that exact moment to hit me with a surprise 4-hour software update. Timing, right? So here's how it all went down. I woke up Sunday morning, still emotionally hungover from the birthday disaster, and grabbed my phone. Instantly, my screen lit up with notifications. 5 missed calls from Tina. 3 from Kayla. 2 from Dylan. The rest? Unknown numbers. My stomach dropped. My first thought? Someone died. I called Tina first. She'd sounded the most panicked in her messages, all of which were basically variations of, "Chloe, please call me back as soon as you can." She picked up on the first ring. Her voice was shaky and exhausted. Then she told me what happened. After Logan stormed out of the dinner, he apparently spiraled completely. Around 2:30 a.m., he showed up drunk at an ex-girlfriend's apartment, an ex I didn't even know existed, ranting about how I'd ruined his life. The ex, terrified, called Kayla. Kayla had to go pick him up and drag him home. But wait, it gets worse. While all this was going down, Logan was also blowing up everyone's phones. He sent Dylan a stream of threatening texts saying he'd destroy his reputation at work. Which is hilarious, considering he barely even had a job left to stand on. Then came the piece de resistance. He posted a long, unhinged Facebook rant about betrayal, snakes, and how people were going to regret crossing him. But the real kicker? He sent Marco, yes, that Marco, a private message. With my address. And a whole paragraph about how I was going to pay for humiliating him. Thankfully, Marco, clearly feeling the weight of his own conscience, immediately forwarded the message to Tina. Which is why she'd been calling me nonstop. She was afraid Logan might actually show up at my apartment. So there I was. Sitting on my couch, still in yesterday's pajamas, hair in a greasy top knot, trying to process everything. While Tina apologized again and again on the phone. You'd think I'd be scared. And maybe I should have been. But honestly, I just felt drained. Like when your phone's been sitting at 1% battery all day and you're just waiting for it to finally give up. Tina insisted she was coming over. No debate. It was incredibly sweet, also mildly terrifying. Because, let's be honest, nothing triggers panic cleaning mode quite like knowing someone's mom is about to see your apartment. I went into full crisis mode, shoving laundry in the closet, scrubbing counters, wiping toothpaste off the sink. When the doorbell finally rang, I braced myself. And it wasn't just Tina. Kayla was with her too. Tina and Kayla showed up with coffee and those little pastries from the bakery near their house, the ones I used to be obsessed with. Honestly, might be the only thing I genuinely miss about dating Logan. We sat around my tiny kitchen table, the one with the wobbly leg I keep swearing I'll fix, and they filled me in on what had been happening. According to Kayla, Logan's meltdown wasn't exactly out of character. He had a long history of reinventing himself to sound more impressive than he really was. Back in college, for example, he told everyone he made the baseball team when actually he got cut during tryouts. He once claimed he dated a super popular girl, but Kayla said the girl didn't even know who he was. The pattern was clear. Logan always built up these fantasy versions of himself where he was more athletic, more successful, more admired than reality allowed. While we talked, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Friends were texting nonstop after seeing Logan's meltdown online. Jenna, of course, was absolutely losing it. She offered to swing by with her boyfriend, who happens to do kickboxing, just in case. She watches way too many crime documentaries. Meanwhile, our group chat was a full-blown mess. Screenshots. Subtweets. Everyone freaking out in real time over Logan's chaotic spiral. Then the doorbell rang. I froze. My stomach dropped. What if it was him? Kayla peeked through the blinds and let out a breath of relief. It's just Dylan. Apparently Logan had been blowing up his phone too, and Dylan came by to give me a heads up in person. Logan had made some weird comment about dropping by to talk. So now picture this. Me, Logan's mom, his sister, and his coworker, all crammed into my apartment on a Sunday morning, trying to figure out what to do about a grown man throwing a tantrum after getting exposed. It was stressful, yeah, but also surreal. I kept thinking, how do you even explain this to someone who wasn't here? Dylan told us their boss had already seen Logan's unhinged social media posts. Someone had taken screenshots and sent them in. Monday at work was going to be a scene. Kayla was worried Logan might snap completely if he ended up losing his job too. And honestly, I didn't disagree. Then ding dong again. This time it was the building manager. He looked seriously uncomfortable. He told me Logan had been downstairs in the lobby making a scene, demanding to be let up. When the manager refused, Logan started yelling loud enough for the whole first floor to hear. He called me a lying bitch and only left when they threatened to call the police. Tina looked crushed. Her face crumpled with guilt. She just kept whispering how sorry she was over and over. She genuinely didn't understand how things had gotten this bad. And honestly, I felt bad for her. It must be heartbreaking to watch your adult son unravel like that in front of strangers. Kayla, being the level-headed one, told me I should start documenting everything, just in case this escalated further. While we were talking through next steps, my phone buzzed again. Logan had tagged me in an Instagram story. Everyone told me not to look. Naturally, I looked. It was an old photo, me, asleep on his couch, mouth wide open. From early in our relationship. The caption? Miss Perfect who ruined my birthday isn't so perfect. A girl like her should be lucky anyone even took pictures of her. That was it. That was his big revenge move. I actually laughed. Like, legit laughed out loud. Tina looked a little confused by my reaction, but seriously? If that's all he had left in his toolbox, I was going to be fine. Right as we were deciding what to do next, there was a loud pounding on my door. We all jumped. Then we heard him, Logan. His voice was slurred. I know you're in there. Open the door. Dylan jumped up like he was ready to throw hands, which was sweet but unnecessary. I already had security on speed dial. One upside of paying way too much in rent? On-site building security. Logan kept banging and yelling. I heard one of my neighbors crack her door to peek out and see what was going on. By the time the guard arrived, Logan had escalated to kicking my door. The security guard didn't play around. He gave Logan one warning, leave or the police get called. I couldn't hear everything they said, but there was a tense exchange, and then silence. The guard knocked gently on my door and told me Logan had left the building but was still lingering in the parking lot. Tina looked completely broken. She insisted on going down to talk to him herself. And honestly, I didn't argue. She looked like she needed to do something. Anything. Eventually, Frank came to pick them both up. The whole thing just felt sad. After they left, Dylan and I sat in silence on the couch for a while, processing everything. Eventually, he broke the silence with, "Do you have any wine?" Yes. Yes, I did. We split a bottle I'd been saving for a special occasion. This definitely qualified. By the time Dylan left, it was late afternoon. I was emotionally drained. Jenna came over later and refused to go home, insisted on sleeping over just in case Logan came back. He didn't. Thank God. We ate pizza, watched some trashy reality show, and tried to make sense of the weird soap opera my life had turned into. The next few weeks? A new kind of chaos. Logan ended up getting fired after ghosting work for 4 straight days and sending out some very inappropriate emails to coworkers. Not just unprofessional. Unhinged. So Logan ended up moving back in with his parents for a while, which I only know because Kayla and I still talk. She's actually become kind of a friend. We grab coffee now and then, and she's hilarious once you get past the dry sarcasm. Logan, of course, tried to reach out a few more times. His voicemails were all over the place. Some angry, others full of tears, and a few where he suddenly got all sentimental, like we were in a rom-com and just needed one magical moment to fix everything. I saved them all just to be safe, but I never responded. Then he started messaging me through fake Instagram accounts. Not even good fake accounts. They were so obviously him. Who else would send a message that says, "You're making a big mistake"? With that exact spelling error and that aggressive tone? Blocked. Immediately. The weirdest moment, though, happened about 2 months after the birthday dinner. I was at Target, wandering around the home section, trying to pick out a new shower curtain. Out of nowhere, I look up and there he is. Standing just a few feet away, holding a pack of socks and looking like he hadn't slept in days. Our eyes met. I froze, not sure what he was about to do. For a second, I thought he might yell. Or try to talk to me. But instead, he just turned on his heel and walked away, left his basket in the aisle and everything. That was 2 months ago. Eventually, according to Tina, who still sends me holiday cards, bless her heart, Logan moved in with his uncle in another state. I think it's his family's quiet way of hitting the reset button. Probably hoping he'll finally get therapy or pull himself together. His social media has gone radio silent, which Kayla suspects means his parents cut him off financially until he gets real help. Honestly, good for them. As for me, I'm doing okay. Actually, more than okay. My apartment finally feels like mine again. I've rearranged the space, swapped out the furniture that reminded me of him, and added little things that make me happy: plants, soft blankets, a weird ceramic frog I found at a flea market that makes me smile every time I see it. Surprisingly, one of the better things to come out of all this has been my friendship with Dylan. No, we're not dating. Jenna keeps trying to push us together, but it's not like that yet. We meet up for lunch sometimes and send each other dumb TikTok videos. It's nice having someone who gets it, someone who saw it all unfold in real time and understands why my trust issues now come in XXL. When I think back on everything that happened, I don't really feel angry anymore. Well, not just angry. There's a weird sense of relief. Maybe even gratitude? Not because I dated Logan. Let's be clear, I could have skipped that whole disaster and been totally fine. But I am grateful I found out who he really was before things went further. Before I moved in with him. Or, God forbid, made bigger life decisions based on the version of him I thought was real. Dodged a bullet? More like a rocket.